Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. Uh, I guess to another episode of this channel, this YouTube series. After a long day, uh, wow! I'm actually shocked. I'm doing this. I'm actually shocked. I'm still doing this. Reason behind that is because, well, it's linked to this channel. It's linked to linked to the video name, to be more specific. This one, overcoming your fears. Well, unless I changed it after recording. But the thing is, right now I'm recording this in the last week of October, Spook October, Horror Month, but it's not linked to that. It's not linked to that at all. Actually, I have a little bit of a secret to tell you all. The first two recordings that are now on this channel that were posted in around mid-October of this year were recorded about 2.5 months ago. Even this channel, even the idea of this channel, the first thought about it came to me in January, the start of this year. But the problem is I was always so afraid. I was always thinking, what could happen? What about this? What about that? Should I do this? Is it something people might like? Is that people might not like? Am I changing too much from what the regular content that I'm doing and everything? And I was always so caught up with all of these thoughts and everything about this whole thing, this whole thing that I'm trying to do here. And even when I got the first, when I got myself, even when I got myself to sit on this chair and record the first one, I kept it. I just kept it saved. And whenever I would tell myself, okay, time to record some gameplay footage of Mario Kart, I say, oh, you know what? Let me go play a game of Fortnite. Oh, let me go watch a bit of YouTube. Let me watch a series. Subconsciously, I was just running away from it. I was just consumed by fear on this topic, worried about what could happen in all of this. But I finally did it. I finally did it. And this got me to start thinking about this, like overcoming your fears. Because I've always had this. I've always had this anxiety, thinking 3 steps ahead, always being worried, always being anxious about this. Don't get me wrong, stress and anxiety is a whole other topic that I can and probably will make a video out of it. But even if I've always had it, I guess I learned to get better at it. I guess I learned to better manage it. And if I look back, if I try to think about this, where did this start? How did I learn? How did I try to get better at it? It's such a funny thing, actually. But I remember a long time ago, a very good friend of mine, whenever he would be pitching some crazy ideas, something too crazy to do or too scary or too that, whenever anyone would like chuckle and say, no, I'm not going to do this, like, no, he would say something that would be quite shocking. And okay, hear me out. This is gonna sound weird, but you'll understand what I mean. He'd say, at worst, I'm going to die. Yeah. Yeah, that reaction you just had, I had the same one. What? What do you mean at worst? And at first I was like, this is what? Like, this is just confusing. Why would anyone say that? But the thing is, if you think about it, it's kind of does make you feel less scared about it, at least for me. Because the thing about fear, about whenever anything, like whenever I'm planning or thinking about anything, the fear is about the uncertain outcomes. The fear is about what could possibly go wrong. It's about thinking about like all the many different things that could occur. But this one adds a bit of a ceiling, if you think about it. This one kind of limited it to a maximum thing. Okay, it's a horrible thing for sure. But in a weird way, it kind of got me to feel better. about making such decisions. Now, definitely, this channel, that was not the way I thought about how to like overcome the fear, but this is one of the things that helped me a bit in many of the decisions I do, not as extreme, but in that sense. But it's not the only way. It's not the only way to do this, because eventually, even if something is not as damaging or as scary that can possibly kill you, of course not. Another thing I do, and I have this, I fall into this pattern. I fall into this pattern to overcome my fears by breaking down a problem. I always find myself thinking about something as a massive problem that is just facing me. And the best way for me to do it is to break it down into a few steps, into a few smaller problems. And I start tackling them one at a time. Because eventually, if you think about it, let me take this example about this channel. It was a channel that is all about opening up and talking about topics that could be quite heavy, or other topics that might be thought provoking. So what I did was I created a channel. I picked the icon for the channel. I picked the name. I wrote down a few ideas I want to record. I thought of the game I want to put in the background. I set up the voice recorder on the PC, and then I started recording. If you think about it, this major, big task ahead of me, this big problem, was a little easier after I broke it down to multiple ones. And of course, I told myself, what's the worst that can happen? The max worst possible thing was that I would die. But this is clearly not going to lead to that. So that helped me in a way, from one side, break down the problem into multiple different problems and manage my fears, manage my what could possibly happen moments, I guess. And eventually, the later steps usually that I go through are faking it until you make it, I guess. If you think about it, this is what I did for streaming. At first, I was terrified. I was terrified of doing it. Even after start doing it for a few months. I remember one time, and if any of the viewers are listening, probably you guys will remember this moment when I first had my heart rate on screen. The first time I had my heart rate on screen, they noticed at the start of the screen, my heart rate was sky high. I think it was 135. The reason behind that is I was scared. I was nervous. But then again, I told myself, what's the worst that can happen? And then I told myself, all right, let's take the first steps, one step at a time, one problem at a time. And now I'm happy that I did that. I'm happy that I did that for streaming. I'm happy that I did that for this channel. Let me go even further. Before hitting the record button right now, I was scared. I felt my heartbeat rise right before clicking the record button. So what I did was I pressed it and I waited for a few seconds until I felt comfortable to talk. And then it just started gushing out. And to answer the main thing, like the whole topic, like how I overcome my fears at its simplest way, I just take the first step and I tell myself, what's the worst that can happen? But I guess that's just a thought I've had after a long day. Please let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts around this topic, on my thoughts around it? I know some of them might have been a bit extreme. And if you have any other topic you guys want me to talk about, please let me know. I'd love to check them out. And maybe, hopefully, I'll make a YouTube video about it and answer these questions. Good night, everyone.